And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the Top Dog Talk podcast. I'm your host, Harris Areno. Alongside me, co-host Dan Kiley, Kobe Piers. Boys, another Georgia football Saturday in the books. Another cupcake, last cupcake until November? November
The week before
22nd, I want to
that.
say, is the Charlotte game. This cupcake was not as sweet as last week's cupcake. A little tart, maybe a little soggy. Maybe the icing was off. Got a lot to get through. Social media's been on fire since around 3:48 p.m. Saturday, which was around the time that Georgia got stuffed on its 1 yard on the 1 yard line at the end of the first half versus Austin Peay. Gentlemen, to kick it off, I haven't talked to either of you about this game, other than the voice notes that were exchanged this morning while the man Kobe was getting his new whip. Um, let's start there. General thoughts and reactions to Saturday on what happened Saturday.
Yeah, I'll start us off, Dan, if you don't mind. I think general thoughts and reactions come from me from a couple of different places. I think that's the hard thing. Like it comes from me from a player perspective, having been in the building under the head ball coach in games similar to this. It comes from me from maybe like the staff perspective, and then it comes from me as the fan, as the viewer, the person that pays the money, donates the money, buys the seats, sits in the seats, gets rained on, stays for the lightning delay, all those things. Luckily, wasn't me this week. Had other obligations, but from I think that point of view, from the fans' perspective, you're disappointed in kind of how Saturday's game went. You kind of looked, you weren't up for it. I guess would be the easiest way to put it, where people understand. You looked a little flat. You come out, you fumble on the first drive. You're only up 14-0 going into the halftime. You kind of end the half on a really, really sour note. You can't put it in. And I love that clip. We'll get to that probably later. But I love that clip of Kirby just screaming his head off, because it's a pride thing, right? From the 1 yard line, it's a pride thing. It's your 11 guys versus their 11 guys. You just have to want it more to put it in. I think probably the worst part of that is the freshman tight end breaking his ankle. Wishing him a speedy recovery. But from purely, we'll start from the fan perspective. I don't know that you can't be just a little disappointed in the way the overall game kind of felt like it went.
I think you're nailing it. There's two different ways to talk about this, because it's okay to be frustrated. I mean, you're a fan. You want to see your team play really, really well. And to be completely honest and frank, Georgia didn't play really, really well. But to go around and just start like some of the reaction that I've seen has just been a little foolish and outlandish, and it's just they just weren't up for this game. They didn't click on all cylinders, but they're young men. I mean, they're young men. They're what? Some of them are 18, some of them are 24 at maybe at the top end, but most of them are in that 19 to 20 range. And if you've ever been around people that age, they're up and down all the time. So, the fact that these college coaches can get these kids dialed in more times than not speaks volumes to me. But I think it's fair to say that you're just frustrated. I think it's okay as a fan to say you wanted to see a better performance. I don't find anything wrong with those opinions if that's what it is. But then when you start trying to play sideline coach and dissect what's going on, like, all right, I mean, you can have played, but you weren't in the huddle. You didn't know the play call exactly. You don't know exactly what's going on. So some of that is a little over the top. I mean, again, it's okay for me to say, hey, I wish Gunner would have played a little bit better, or hey, I wish our receivers got a little bit more separation, or hey, I wish we could have run blocked a little bit better. I mean, those things are fine. I don't have any problem with anybody saying any of those things. I just the same narrative that we keep hearing, and I'm not going to really put a name on it, but you know what I'm talking about. Just some of it's just so obnoxious at this point. But yeah, I was a little bit frustrated. I expected Georgia to handle that game pretty confidently. I think I said 45-3 is what I thought it would probably be. I was very wrong, but I did say they wouldn't cover.
Look, the one thing I've learned on this show is we can make some good picks when it comes to other college football games, and we can pick spreads, and we can be good at that. But man, when we're picking these Georgia games, for some reason, we don't know. It's like, and I get it. I think a lot of the times that when we're wrong on games and spreads around Georgia, it's these games where the spread's just too big, and which is why once it's over like 2 scores, we're like, ooh, I don't know, like a little too big. But that's probably just the Georgia logo doing its work over the years here. To me, boys, I think it was Dan. Thank you for that. My microphone. Hopefully the audio is now fixed on
Better.
that one. Better. Sorry about that. Yeah, you're right, Dan. I like the point here. I think you're right to be disappointed. I think that's the thing. I don't want people to have this come across as you shouldn't be upset. Like, yeah, I get it. There's reason for concern, legitimate reason. I think when you talk about the vertical passing game, I think it's 70% of Gunnar Stockton's passes to this point in his 2 games have been either behind the line of scrimmage or have been 0 to 9 yards downfield, 0 to 9. So the short passing, and that's 70% of his attempts, according to Pro Football Focus, have been within those yards right there. That's concerning. Then you turn on the tape and you see third down or third play of the game. Mike Bobo calls a shot play. It's a play action shot play. It's a tight end leak. You got Barber leaking out, and you have Noah Thomas running the deep post. And right when Noah Thomas gets a step on his guy and gets into his break downfield, probably a touchdown call, you have a free runner coming right up the middle into Gunner's face. He has to pull it down, avoids the sack. It's like 4 or 5 yards. It's a good play. You could have had a great play. You missed that one. Then you go later in the game. They designed the fake the truck toss. I think I sent this to somebody today, the video. You fake the truck toss, something we've talked about millions of times on this show. And they try to hit Jaden Riddell on a wheel route up the sideline. Cornerback falls, and Gunnar Stockton has his eyes in the right place. But just a split second, right after the cornerback falls, he turns and hits the check down. Gets 5-6 yards. Good play, but he missed the great play. And I think that's where a lot of the concern comes into it is Gunnar Stockton, for whatever you want to say about Georgia's offense, for whatever we're going to say about his performance, he's done a great job. He's done 2 things really well. He's avoided turnovers. He's taken care of the ball. He's been on schedule. He's keeping you ahead of the chains. You haven't had many third down and longs. You haven't had many second and longs because he's not taking sacks. He's not putting the ball at risk very often. But as you get into SEC play, boys, you're going to have to put the ball at risk to win some of these games.
Yeah, but that's not uncommon for somebody who's not got a handful of starts under their belt, is that they are so concerned with not making the big mistake. And I mean, this one really hits home to me. I watch it on Friday nights with my son. Like, you're 100% right. It's like at some point you're going to have to put the ball at risk and just have a little bit of faith on you. Inside, you know what I mean? You have to have faith in yourself that you can make that play. And that I think you said something when we talked, Harrison, or maybe it wasn't you, but it's have faith in what you're seeing. And Kirby talked about that in the press conference as well, where he watches Gunnar execute at a very high level during practice and is able to complete those balls during practice. And it's just got to start leaking over to the game where you have that level of confidence in yourself. So the ability is there. He's showing people at practice every day that he has the ability to do those things. It's now where it's got to take that next step where you have a lot of confidence in yourself that you can make that play. And then also you can live with the results if you don't, right? And that's, it's one of the things that we kind of liked about Stetson. Some people didn't, some people did. I actually did, is that Stetson didn't give a shit. He was going to take a shot if it was there. If he gets picked off, oh, well, he's got a great defense on the other side, on the sidelines waiting to come out and defend the field. So, I have a feeling we're going to see a different version of Gunnar on Saturday, though.
Real quick, before Kobe, you jump in here, I want to pose this to you because you've been in the room, and Dan, I want you to also jump in on this. I don't like, it scares me when you get out of a game, you go into your first SEC opener, and it's on the road, hostile environment. It's going to be his first road start, and he's talking about, I need to have more confidence. That scares me. That's not something you want to hear out of your starting quarterback. And I get it. He's young. This is his third start. He's through 3 career starts. His first career start was a tough one. They lost that game, but it wasn't because of him, in my opinion. I took things away from Auburn when I heard Hugh Freeze talking about the defense was taking it easy on Jackson Arnold in practice. He needs to build confidence. I don't like hearing concerns about confidence in games. And I get it. He's young. He hasn't played. So there hasn't been that buildup of confidence. But that's concerning to me off the jump.
Yeah, like you're saying, I just guess that the biggest thing is different people react different ways to different things, and sometimes just a good ugly game kind of can knock some sense into you in film, in practice. Like, hey man, let it rip. You're gonna have to. We're gonna have to have. You have to play complementary football in order to win the SEC. Nobody who's ever won the SEC, to my knowledge, has not played complementary football. You're going to have to be able to run the ball. You're going to have a short passing game. You're going to have an intermediate passing game. And you're going to have a deep passing game. It's just what happens. I mean, it's just good quality offense against good quality defenses. A defensive coordinator, Kirby Smart, is going to try to take something away from you. He's going to try to take away the run. And he may occasionally give up a big play downfield, play in man, but he's not going to let you run the ball. But if you're not willing to take those shots, make those plays, complete those passes, you very much become one-dimensional. I think for Gunner, for Coach Smart, for Coach Bobo, for everybody on the offense, it's how can we draw up maybe a couple plays that aren't necessarily simple, but maybe easy reads. I feel like that was one thing that I didn't see a lot of on Saturday is throw your quarterback a bone and let's get him some easy reads as far as like, let's move the pocket. Let's have him rolling out to his right, to his arm side. And let's have, 2 levels of receivers, one coming at about 7 yards, maybe one coming about 15 yards across his face. He gets to pick who's open. He can make the throw. If they're both covered, you scamper out of bounds. Obviously, who knows what the game plan was? Who knows how the game plan was? But to me, those are just those small, easy, tick-tacky plays that can kind of get some confidence rolling in a quarterback.
Dan, what do you think in terms of hearing? Just going off of what Kobe said, but also adding on to the hearing the comment of, I need to get more confidence.
That's extremely tough because you can't force confidence on somebody. You know what I mean? You're either confident or you're not. And I to me, it all comes back to the kid just doesn't want to make a mistake. And I understand that. To my core, I understand that. If you've ever been a part of any team, you don't want to be the guy making the mistake. So I 100% can empathize with that. But I think, as both of you have pointed out, that to compete at the highest level that we aspire to, you're going to have to take some chances and put the ball up in the air. And listen, we've watched him throw the football. There's not a doubt in my mind that he can make those throws. It just comes back to the point, the emphasis of you got to believe what you're seeing and know that you can make the throw and just execute it. And I think we're spending a lot of time on Gunner, and I don't think all of the issues from Saturday stem back to Gunner. I will say the defense played great. I don't have a problem with the defense. They kicked 2 field goals, if I'm not mistaken. They didn't get in the end zone. So, the defense did their job. But then again, at the same time, the offense didn't put the defense in any bad positions. And I think that's probably what comes back to what Gunner, what his hesitancy is. He doesn't want to risk an opportunity to give up points. But I've met the kid. I've done, like I said, 4 of his football games in high school. The one thing that I would have never said about Gunner Stockton is he wasn't confident. When he was in high school, he was extremely confident. I wouldn't call him cocky. That wouldn't be fair. But he had an abundance of confidence, and for every reason, for every rightful reason to be confident. So I'm just not overly concerned yet about Gunner. I mean, there's other things that I might be a little bit more concerned about, but Gunner's not at the top of my list. So I understand it's a talking point, and I know that we have to talk about it, but like he's really not at the top of my list.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, we talked about as I kind of opened this segment in terms of talking about Gunner, the two things he's doing well. He's on schedule. He's avoiding negative plays. He's avoiding sacks. He's getting positive yards. Kobe, you play with a teammate that went by the motto, "You never go broke taking a profit." And that's kind of back. Like they're not going to go broke taking a profit. I'm going to take the 2nd and 4 rather than the 2nd and 10 because I wanted to go take a deep shot down the field. Like that's kind of what the game plan's been. Kirby talked about it after the game Saturday, and I don't think it gets enough run, but also it's because the people who are putting out this narrative that this offense that we've seen is just all screens, all short passing game is the offense for the rest of the year. Kirby told everybody why they did it. They were taking what's given. It's the simplest form of play calling in football. It goes back to when Dan played back in the 1940s. You take what is given. When you got a corner 7 yards off your closest receiver, and it's one-on-one between your best, most dynamic athlete in Zachariah Branch and their safety, a low division G5, G6, whatever. No, Austin Peay is FCS. Aren't they FCS or are they Power 5 or G5? FCS? FCS safety versus Zachariah Branch, one-on-one in the open field. Give me Zachariah Branch in the free 10 yards every damn time. But to that point, we saw one of Gunner's first throws in the Sugar Bowl was that deep ball to Arian Smith. Forget the thing that happened during the play on the sideline. That was one of the best deep balls that was thrown all year last year for Georgia. It's one of the few completed ones. Like first real big deep passing play in the game that was completed. Like he can do it. We can see it. To me, it's not Georgia's not designing it because that's not the case. I have 2 clips. I put 2 clips out on Twitter. They designed one. One of them protection broke down when he tried to hit the post. The other one, he missed it. He was too quick to the check down on the sideline. Kobe, I know I jumped in there. What were you gonna say?
Yeah, I just have a question for you guys. Just talking about like being upset about the way the game kind of went. You know, if that game ends 42-6, are you upset with the way the game goes, with the way the day went? Because legitimately, you get stopped at the 1 yard line. That's 7 points, and then you have the fumble on the first drive. Not saying that's 7, but even say it's 10, say it's 38-6 final score. I think a lot of people get upset about the points part of it more than anything. The points is what hurts them. And I do agree, scoring's important. Scoring's how you win football games. But if I had to say, like, from an execution standpoint, I think that's 2 different things. I think a lot more people are upset because it was monotonous at times, like you're saying, taking one as a given, bend, don't break offense. But I also know that Kirby isn't out there going for the jugular against Austin Peay. I think the time to hit the big red button will be in 3 weeks if we're having these same issues. You could be 2-2. That will be the time to hit the big red button. But for now, like you're saying, against Austin Peay, I would say Gunner not feeling confident, not thinking he's confident, is worrisome. I think the big thing is I'm worrying about all the fellas that are kind of dropping like flies. That freshman tight end's probably done for the season. I don't know if we've got an official word, but looking at his ankle in those pictures, I would assume it was either broken lower leg or dislocated ankle, one or the other. He's done. Juan Gaston, Ernest Green, Kirby said they're week to week. They probably could have gone. I've heard that a million times on somebody that hadn't gone for 8 weeks. So, it doesn't give me just like warm fuzzies at night thinking they're both going to be back for Tennessee. Well, they could have played if we had needed them. Okay, I could have played if you needed me, coach, but I wasn't there. So, I think that the O-line play, some of that is definitely a little bit more in my concern. It's hard. It's the first 2 games of the year. You're asking kids to play that maybe weren't projected to play, Maybe there's a reason they weren't projected to play. And then you're having a first-year quarterback sit back there and have to trust protections from 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different guys across the offensive line. That was the thing last year. If I had to preach on one thing and if I had to harp on one thing from last year, we didn't know a lot of times who our best 5 offensive linemen were. Who could we throw out there and run the ball, pass protect, and do everything that needed doing? And I'm worried with these 2 injuries from game 1. I'm worried we're going to have like a similar shuffle the first 3 to 4 weeks of if these guys can't go in Tennessee, what 5 gives us the best chance to win, and can they do it?
So that to me was a bigger issue, was the offensive line, because of the size and strength of our offensive line. You would think they would be able to push them around, and it didn't seem like that was really happening a lot. I was listening to the radio at the halftime, and Josh Brock, I believe is his name, the new color analyst for University of Georgia, took over for Zaire. And his first half analysis was that the offensive line played amazing. And I didn't agree with that at all. And I understand he's got to toe the company line. But to your point, Kobe, when you're in the red zone, inside the 5-yard line, and you're going to run the football, that's a pride thing for sure. But then also, Georgia has such a talent advantage on the offensive line. I mean, just the pure size of it. I mean, they're all like, 6'5", 6'6". I mean, they're all massive human beings. And they're all 300-plus pounds. They should be able to open up a hole that you could walk through. I mean, we should be able to put Harrison at running back from 3 yards out against Austin Peay and score. And that is my perception. That is the way that I view it, and that is where my frustration came. My frustration wasn't with the play calls. It wasn't with the other things. It's that we've got giant humans on the front of our offensive line, and we're asking them to get some type of a push against Austin Peay, and we didn't get it. That's where I was losing my mind, and that's where I was getting extremely frustrated. And you're right, when Frazier got stopped, at the 1-inch line and didn't score, and they called the timeout, and Kirby and Harrison even pointed it out. He said he did this right here. He's like, that's 1 inch, and then he pointed at his heart, and it's like, that's heart. This right here is right here. And I agree 100% with that. And I know that, part of his thing is that he's trying to motivate. But damn it, if there's not a lot of truth in what he had to say. We're 1 foot away from the end zone, and I've got 5 guys that are supposed to be going to the NFL at some point up there blocking against 5 guys or 4 guys on that defensive line that will not sniff the NFL. Damn it, give me a yard. And we just couldn't. So that was – like I said, Gunner wasn't at the top of my list. That offensive line performance and the fact that they didn't dominate the way that Dan Kiley, thought that they should, is why I was getting frustrated. And I'm just saying that because I don't want everybody to jump on you guys for anything. I'm just saying for me, and I'm not. I mean, it's just that's my frustration is that I felt like that offensive line should have been much more dominant than what it was.
See, I'm on the 1-yard line thing that. I put it in my article I did post game. It's the goal line embarrassment. Georgia should have made that in. Georgia should have got that in the end zone. I'm with you, Dan. You need a half. They're on the 1/2-yard line. You should be able to punch the ball in at the end of the half right there. And I saw this was from fall camp, and I posted this on Twitter. I posted this on the dog event. This was a quote from the first day of fall camp from Kirby Smart. He's talking about wanting to see a chip on the shoulders offensive line. And he talks about the importance of PFE. He goes, and I quote, PFE is one of the things we're looking for. No greater position that you possess passion, fire, and energy than O-line. There is something about breaking someone's will or saying, I have to move you from point A to point B. And movement is exactly that. Movement is what creates run game. Now, that's what we're talking about on the 1/2-yard line. Creating movement, doing it against somebody's wall. That was an embarrassment. 100% with you there. But I do think from a run game perspective, they're still creating movement. I go back and watch them on tape. They're still doing they're opening holes. And I think some of the yards you're leaving on the field is not so much on the offensive line at times. I do think, with Nate Frazier specifically, Nate Frazier has home run hitting potential. I think we all see that when he's on the field. Every time he gets the ball, you kind of have that sense like, ooh, he could take this for 50 or he could take it for only 4. There needs a little bit more patience. I think that's the difference between him, a Chauncey Bowens, a Dwight Phillips. Dwight Phillips had a run to the right, stretch play to the right, so it's in between the tackle and the tight end, and he cuts it backside, boys. Tucks it backside and picks up 15 yards. Like, I don't think we've seen a run like that from Frazier since early in his career, and ever since then, they've been preaching, hey, stop cutting it back. Just hit the hole, hit the hole, hit the hole. And I think it's been to his detriment a little bit here early. But I feel just, and this is kind of what I feel like, I think there's one thing we know about this team, and they'll be damned if they don't run the football well. They ran it for 190 yards on 40 attempts, average 4.8 a carry. They're averaging on the season, 2 games, 214 and a half a game, 5.1 per carry. I get it. It's Austin Peay. It's Marshall. They're inferior opponents. They're outsized. They're outmatched. They're outgunned. They're out-talented, outstarred. I get it. But as we saw last year, as we talked about with the offensive line last year, those guys were 3 NFL draft picks, 4 NFL draft picks, all 4 of them playing on Sundays. That didn't equate to automatic movement. That didn't equate to automatic dominance in the run game. I think we're seeing more in the run game from this unit than we have from that unit. But then again, it's truth-telling season again, boys. They go to Knoxville next Saturday. Like, it doesn't mean daily squat that they ran these last 2 games that they can't get yards over Tennessee.
Yeah, and I want to hop in with Dan too, and you, and we'll segue into Tennessee a little bit harder, or into what it means. But I don't think the offensive line played a bad game. I don't want that to get confused in what we're saying here. They didn't play a
issue. Yeah,
but I still wouldn't consider it a bad game. I would say Kirby. I would say Kirby would tell you, or Stacey Searles, or whoever you want to hear this from, would tell you that there's good, bad, and ugly. And in a football game against Austin Peay, I want there to be 1 to none ugly. Maybe a few bads here and there, but mostly goods. And I just think there were a few too many bad and uglies. It doesn't mean there still weren't a ton of good reps.
Correct.
But I just think that there were times that it shouldn't have been ugly that they were, and I think those always just are very glaring against an opponent like this. Is like, man, you just look like if you would have, and I get it, it's easy on this side of the screen to coach and tell, but like if you would have just one more step, if you would have taken one more powerful step, if you would have kick slide just one more, then it looks like it's almost an energy, a fire, a passion to get there, and you just didn't. Don't get me wrong. It takes a lot of things. They're thinking about a lot of things, but nobody's going to need any reason to get up this week. Let me tell you that right now. I mean, if a game like this doesn't light a fire under the whole team, because I know it lit a fire under Kirby, and that man doesn't need a fire lit under him. And so I guess that's my thing about this game is I would rather go into Tennessee next week and beat them for the 10th time or 9th time under the Kirby Smart administration and score 28 against Austin Peay, then score 70 against Austin Peay and go in there and score 10 next week. So I think that is the big and hard thing about the way Kirby thinks about these games, the way we should try to think about these games. He's not going to lay it all out on the table against somebody he doesn't deem worthy. I've seen him do it a million times, though. He drops the hammer on teams that have it coming to him. So,
well, and two things. One, I wanted to be clear. I was mad about the offensive line inside the 5-yard line. So that's that. I think I articulated that. But if not, if you misunderstood and thought I was talking about the whole game, I wasn't. I was talking about that. And then the second is this offensively could be a blessing in disguise, because I'm not going to say that Kirby did it intentionally, because I wouldn't say that. But what I would say is he's probably pretty happy that there's a lot to be pissed off about on the offensive side of the ball, because now he's going to be able to use that fire, passion, energy all week long to light a fire under these kids' ass and really come out and play hard in Knoxville. So I think that's the That's the blessing in disguise, or the unintended consequence of not playing or executing at the highest level. Austin Peay is now you're going to have an extremely motivated Kirby Smart this week. When, to your point, he doesn't need to be motivated, but now he is, and those kids are going to be extra motivated to come out and prove to everybody that what they saw didn't have any bearing on it. But if we can get to the defense at some point, that would be great.
I want to get there. I got a question for y'all, because I'm watching it from I think all three of us watched the game. I know Kobe was elsewhere this weekend, so he wasn't in the stands this week. But Dan, I know you saw it on the TV copy. I saw it from the box. Kobe, I'm sure you saw the TV copy as well. Does it seem to y'all there's a little bit more old school, original fire from Kirby? Like last year, it felt like he had much more of a calm demeanor, but I'm seeing more dropping F-bombs on the hot mic when the referee's, calling out a penalty. He said, "What the F?" On the 1 yard line. You see him going half inch, as you said, ripping them. I see a little bit more fire from him than we did at times last year, because last year we came on this show, and Dan, I think you talked about it, about the difference between how he coached Carson when the cameras were on him than how he did Stetson. And I think it's different. I think he's coaching this team a little bit harder. I think he's getting on them harder, going back to how it used to be. Not to say he was easier on last year's guys, but it just seems like those moments, those Kirby Smart as we know him moments, are happening frequently again.
I smiled ear to ear. I'll let you go, Dan, but I smiled ear to ear watching the TV copy when we got stuffed on. After I was mad that we got stuffed, when it flips to him, I can tell you, word for word, exactly what he says that whole thing. I'm watching him. He's like, it's this fucking far. You're 1 inch. It's here. It's in your heart. You have to want. He just is ripping everyone that wants to hear it. And I guess, like you're saying, it does the heart well to know that he cares that much. I think that's what a lot of people don't understand, maybe sometimes, that sit in the stadium on Saturday. There is no one more happy about our success, and there's no one more upset about our failures than the head ball coach. He cares, I promise you, more than you do 10 times over.
100%. You nailed that. But and this is just an observation from somebody who's not in the room, just watching or whatever. And this could be way off. It could be completely wrong. But I just get the sense that last year Kirby kind of got the feeling like, I don't ever want to have to coach a team like this again, where I have to kind of tiptoe around some guys because I don't want to say the wrong thing. I just want to coach the way that I coach, and I want to coach every single person the way that I need to coach. And I think that's where the fire, passion, energy kind of came from. And I noticed in the offseason, he made many remarks about, I want to coach guys that want to be here and to want to be coached, right? How many times in the offseason did he say verbatim, I want to coach guys that want to be coached, right? So I don't think I'm making this up, and I don't think I'm off base. And I know that there's other people who are closer to the program than I am. The sense that I get is he never wants to have to coach a team the way that he coached last year, where he had to tiptoe around people. He wants to be able to chew your ass if you need to be chewed. And, going to basketball games this past season and listening to them on the practice field, he was coaching. He was coaching. Even during spring, he was coaching his ass off. And I think, to your point, Kobe, getting that smile across your face, when you see that Kirby, I like that Kirby. I don't necessarily like that Kirby with the media, but I like that Kirby because that's the guy who's not going to settle for any bull crap. And I'm here for that.
You're spitting, Dan. That was awesome. I was going to bring up, I was sitting here thinking, all right, I'll bring up fire, passion, but you hit the point home there. I'm with you. I don't think that's off base. I think you're kind of on the money. I think you're probably right. I think that's probably where the fire, passion, energy mantra came from, because he has talked about he wants players who want to be coached. And he talked about in the spring how he was concerned about guys don't want tough coaching, don't want hard coaching. He wants hard coaching because that's what the program has been built off of. That's what Kobe was doing every Tuesday when Kobe was getting ripped. That's hard coaching. Not that Kobe's getting ripped. Kobe probably got ripped maybe a few times, but not as many as say some other teammates. Yeah, the syrup makers. But yeah, I mean that's what he wants. I think you're spot on there, Dan. I think he doesn't want to coach a team like that last year because I think a lot of the messaging over the offseason and coming into this season is reflective upon what the struggles and the flaws were last year. I mean, case in point, they emphasize the run game as heavily as they have in recent times, more so than they have ever. And that's after they finished 15th in the SEC in rushing. Like, fire, passion, and energy, wanting guys who want to play football, wanting guys who want hard coaching. I think that's telling you a little something about what was going on last year in that locker room. Great point there by Dan. Yeah, let's talk about this defense. I said earlier, I think we know this team's going to be damned if they can't run the football. I think we also know they'll be damned if they can't play strong defense. I'm not saying this is back to the elite level standard that Georgia's had on defense, boys, but I think Georgia has a lot of guys right now. I think it's close to back to like that no-name defense era where it's just there's not really one huge name, but you just have a lot of guys collectively that are better than, say, another defense that has maybe 4 guys, 4 superstars. I think collectively this defense is as good as it's probably going to get for Georgia here after the super team era of college football, if you will.
Yeah, like you're saying, it's still early in the year. I think most teams' defenses are pretty no-name after 2 games like we've played. But, man, linebacker room, it's coming. They're going to have a name before long, let me tell you, and it's scary. And then, like you're saying, I think that as a unit, I mean, they gave up 2 field goals. I mean, 2 good field goals from man and from the FCS. 2 44, 45-ish yard field goals. Drained them both. Special teams. Love it. But, I mean, it's not like they were overly threatening. It's kind of, Chase Daniel, shout out, former Missouri quarterback, on the call. I hate the TV copy sometimes. But my man was trying to push down my throat that Austin Peay was in this game when they had scored 0 touchdowns in the game. I'm not going to say they were necessarily out of the game, but it's not like they put up 24 points on the Dogs at home. Right. They kicked a pair of field goals. Like, it is what it is. But listen, the defense looked good. They made some mistakes. They made fixable errors. And like you're saying, it does the heart well, and I think that's the hard thing, right, is when you look at the other side of the coin. The defense did some things that are very big confidence buildings, very big pride. I thought they came out first drive of the second half, and it was a pride thing. You could tell the way the defensive line was playing after the first tackle. I could tell the way they got up that they had gotten chewed for 2 hours of a rain delay by Trey Scott about the standard of defensive line play at the University of Georgia. And Jordan Hall makes that tackle, and him and Christian Miller are up in each other's faces screaming. And it was like, that's what 2 hours in the locker room having to hear about it does to you. And not that there aren't numerous coachable errors that they made that they will go and fix this week. But their confidence as a defense and as a staff has to be that, hey, these guys, when we're on, we're as legit as it gets. Are there errors, some eyes, some coverage errors, maybe some tackling here and there? It's wet, but it's there. The building blocks of a top 5 Kirby Smart defense are there. Maybe top 3 Kirby Smart defense, but we'll see.
I just love the amount of guys that we're rotating in, and I mentioned this last week after the first game, and I'm going to mention it again because I feel like even though we're rotating so many different players, and I understand that we're trying to get a lot of guys in the game, I don't see a noticeable drop-off. And I see the production level stay the same. I see guys hustling after the ball. I think it's a great thing for the University of Georgia to have that many guys that you have faith in to get into the game because you keep a lot of guys fresh. And if we're able to sustain that which I don't know that it's necessarily sustainable to rotate that many guys in. And I do understand you got to get guys into a rhythm in games that really, really matter. But at the same time, every single play that they're in, it seems like everybody's dialed in and ready to go. And that is not something that you see all the time. So, as much negative as we had to say or that people could say about the offense, I don't have hardly anything negative against the defense. I mean, they were just rolling bodies in there and the production level was there. I thought our defensive line did a good job of keeping the linebackers free, letting those linebackers run. I mean, Chris Cole, this is a guy that Harrison loved last year. Every time he's in the game, it seems like he pops. And, Justin Williams get an opportunity to play a little bit more. CJ Allen is CJ Allen. I mean, he's a really, really good football player. I don't think we need to tell anybody that. I think you could watch the tape and see it with your own eyes. The guy's a hell of a football player. But, one of the questions that I know that we brought up in the preseason, in the talking season, so to speak, was we were a little bit concerned about the rotations of the defensive line. Not necessarily that we didn't have talent. It's just we had a lot of young guys, and they're all getting in the game. And they're all making an impact. I think Elijah Griffin, the freshman, the much ballyhooed freshman, I think has been very, very good for us. I don't recall, and I could 100% be wrong, but I don't recall him really getting blown up by anybody at any point. He's getting good push. He's making tackles. He's filling gaps. And I've always said this when I could first understand what the purpose of a defensive line was keep those linebackers free. And I learned that from listening to the guy like Ray Lewis talk. And he talked about like Tony Saragusa and some of those big bodies that were in front of him. And he talked about how he wouldn't have been in the Hall of Fame if it wasn't for guys like that who allowed him to make plays. So that's something that I always look for when I'm watching a defensive line. Is not necessarily that you're making plays. It's like, that's great when you can do that. But first and foremost is, can you clog up those and keep those offensive linemen off of the linebackers and allow them to do their job? And I feel like the defensive line is doing a great job of doing that. And they're getting into the backfield. They're pushing that line back, and they're creating a dirty pocket, and they're making it harder for the running back to take his first step at the football. I was really excited watching this defense play. And, a lot of times when I don't get to catch a game, I'll fast forward to the defensive part and just watch offense because I'm an offensive guy. But I find myself just being really excited watching this team play. And I'll let you say that, Kobe, because something did happen that didn't happen last week. What was it, Kobe?
Tell them, Harrison. Tell them what we were right about. Tell the people that we're not always wrong in our predictions.
Wait. Which one? What are we talking about? Because I'm looking at the prop
sacks,
right
brother.
Now.
Sacks.
Oh, sacks. Yeah, y'all getting into the prop bet predictions that we had.
Well, listen. The sacks were a big deal. They're always the people love the sacks. That's all I'm saying. It always feels good when you're making the other quarterback's life miserable. Yes. I thought we did a good job of that. It's a good feeling, no doubt.
And they were trying to get the ball out quick. All right, Harrison, what you got?
No, I like the point on the defensive line because I know everyone was talking about that during the offseason. I think we told y'all, I came on here multiple times and said, I think I'm more confident in the interior than I am the edge because you have guys who, yes, they haven't been, multi-year starters, haven't taken 500 snaps in a season before. Now they're doing that. They're going to be expected to do that. But I think you're seeing they may not have a Jordan Davis. They may not have a Devontae Wyatt, but I look at Jordan Hall, I look at Christian Miller, I look at Xavier McLeod. I look at those three guys, all three. I think their strengths are against the run. They stack and shed. They stack and shed consistently. Christian Miller, that's all he did on tape last year when he was playing against next to a Nazir Stackhouse, next to a Warren Brinson. They stack and shed. They get in the backfield. What are they doing? You see them now. You're going to get a chance to see them versus Tennessee. They're going to stack and shed next week. JJA, this is a guy that played 4 games as a true freshman before he got hurt. This guy's playing in the interior. This guy, I saw him playing defensive end. I saw him moving around. And this guy's playing with some of the best leverage I've seen for a freshman that played in just 4 games than I have probably in the last few years watching Georgia defensive line. JJA playing awesome this week. I can't wait to see him. That's one thing I'm curious about. They're playing him kind of more in the 4-eye, 5-tech, kind of moving him into 3-tech at times. I'm wondering if we see him kind of more off the edge going forward. I want to see if he can do it. I don't know if he's because he's a freak. I mean, that's the one thing I remember people talking about him coming out of high school. He has that Nigerian bloodline, and they say these Nigerians have these superpowers to them. I know Jordan Hall told us that in the locker room, JJA says he's different. Tells people, lets his teammates know that he's different because of his Nigerian background. I can't wait to see what he does here going forward. And then Ella Madozie. Look, the edge rushers. Ella Madozie brought him in from Army. This was a 6-sack guy from Army. Cole Kubick said he could be a 10-sack guy at Georgia. I think he's still getting with the system. I think he's getting used to it. I think he's still adjusting. He's going to have his chance. I think he took more snaps this week than he did last week, and I think that's showing that he's getting used to the system. Quintavious Johnson, I think he's playing well. He blew up a counter run. It was actually quarterback counter, I want to say. He blew it up. He struck that blocker and impeded the tight end from getting out. He allowed C.J. Allen to run free downhill to tackle the guy for a loss. Guys, and then I know you mentioned him, Chris Cole. Did everybody see the sack? Did everybody see the dip? Just the bend that guy had. This guy hadn't really rushed the passer last year. Didn't really do it. He learned how to be a pass rusher this offseason. Still very, very raw. He got sacked this week as a lined up edge rusher. Awesome stuff from those guys. All right. Somebody, one of you two, go ISO for a minute so I can count these picks so I can get an update on your record.
Yeah, I'm happy to. What do you want me to talk about?
Whatever you want. Your takeaways. Actually, I think we've covered Georgia. Let's react. Them Gators were a dark horse pick in the SEC. Supposed to beat Georgia in Jacksonville this year. Billy Baggs supposed to be getting a bag this year in an extension. South Florida knocks him down in the swamp. Reactions to that, gentlemen, as I do these picks.
Yep. I think this is going to be a really, really terrible reaction for everyone. And I think it is part of why I don't like the way the extended playoff is. It's crazy to think about that game, while exciting, does not change anything about Florida's goals and aspirations this season. I mean, they are very much still alive in the SEC. They're very much still alive in the SEC championship, in the college football playoffs. And that's just upsetting, because I would say that if you watch Notre Dame lose to Northern Illinois like I did last season, you'd have went ahead and scratched Notre Dame just right off your postseason predictions, because it's like, you lost to someone that you had no business losing to at home. Your season's done. Might as well pack it up, start looking at the portal, fire your head coach. It's time to move on. Now, do I think Florida is a complete team that we were sold on in the preseason that will compete for the SEC dark horse? No, I don't. I think this game kind of showed that. But it is amazing to think that you can lose a game of this caliber and basically say, hey, not that it means nothing, because obviously it does. It gets that seat a little hotter, gets everybody just a little tighter. But a 10-2 Florida team with a loss to Georgia and a loss to South Florida probably is still in the college football playoffs.
And you can extrapolate it out a little bit further with a loss like that. While you're saying it doesn't necessarily knock you out of what you want to do, go and look at their schedule, their upcoming schedule that's coming up. Like, you already had a tough road to hoe, and now you've lost to South Florida. Come on, man. Like, that is not looking good. I mean, until you get like to Mississippi State, they could possibly lose every one of those games in between now and then. And that would put them at like, 1-6 or 1-7 at that point. I mean, listen, I've been down here before, and I understand that we hate Florida. I get all that. But, like, Florida's a good program. Like, Florida is a good spot to be when you have the right person in the chair down there in Florida. There's not a lot of other programs that can compete with them when they want to dial it up. I mean, look at what they did with Urban Meyer. Look what they did with Spurrier. And I understand the game has changed a little bit, but still the point remains, like, it is in a hotbed of talent. It is in a great area to recruit to. Florida has everything you want to be successful. They just don't have, for whatever reason, the right direction. And I don't think Napier is necessarily a bad coach. I don't know why it's not clicking for them. I'm sure the guy goes to work every day and works his ass off and does a really fantastic job, but it's not working. Another school like that would be like USC right out in California. Like that you should not settle for anything less than the 10-win season at USC. And I don't think Florida should settle for anything less than a 10-win season at Florida. And if they go, this would be the third year in a row with not getting to 10 wins if they don't. That's not good. And, I understand that these coaches have massive buyouts, but in a school like Florida, like losing games like that is just not acceptable. I mean, if that happened here at Georgia, we wouldn't be happy. I mean, we fired a guy in Mark Richt that was winning 10 games a year. So you have a guy come in here winning 2 games or 3 games. Yikes, look out. And yeah, I mean, Dan Mullen had a better record. Yeah, we got that. He just didn't want to recruit.
All right, Kirby. I see you. Kirby making his way into Dan in the chat. Yeah. SEC Mike with this. Billy Napier is now 20-20 at Florida. Records of the previous Florida coaches at 40 games for those listening on the podcast, which I need to upload. Mullen was 31-9. McElwain was 22-12. Will Muschamp was 24-16. Urban Meyer was 31-9. Gentlemen, before we move on to reviewing the picks from the weekend, spoiler alert, it was another rough weekend for the boys. Even Dan this week. Let's get into prediction mode. You talked about that schedule, Dan. Tough road to hoe. Love that. That little app, that right there. Let's look at this. You talk about this. This is probably one of the only other teams in the SEC that has a schedule tougher than this is Oklahoma, and they got a big win this weekend, beating a Michigan team that some were saying has a generational quarterback in Bryce Underwood. Maybe he does. Maybe he is. We'll see. I know there's a whole debate about generational talent versus generational winners. We won't get into that here. Maybe not on this show. Maybe on Wednesday's show. Gentlemen, does Billy Napier make it to the November 1st Georgia-Florida game in Jacksonville?
I would think that question all depends on how his quarterback plays between now and then, and how together they are. I still think that, if given the opportunity, Florida would like to keep DJ Lagway as the quarterback for another season. I think a big part of the reason Billy was kept for another year is the fact that I think they were very much under the impression that if Billy went, DJ went. But it's going to be rough. I mean, like you're saying, what could he do to look good in those games? Like you go at LSU, at Miami versus Texas at Texas A&M. I mean, you're talking about that could be 0-4 pretty easily. Like I'm not reaching on thinking in my mind that it could be that way. And then Mississippi State is going to live and die by the way the offense rolls. So I mean, if you're 1-4 before November 1st, I don't think there's any way. So I guess what would that be? 2-6, 2-5. If that's your record before you make it to us, I don't think he's there. I just think that's part of the game, the day we live in, is they're going to be wanting to look elsewhere.
Yeah, and I think the one thing that I would say a lot of coaches don't get fired in season. I mean, very rarely,
especially now.
I mean, unless they are a detriment to the team, right? Like if they are actively doing something to cause them from winning the game. And like I said, I don't see him doing that. I don't think you could point the finger at Billy and say, hey, listen, like you did this X, Y, and Z, and this is why we lost. I don't think that's the case. So I think he probably coaches the whole season. And like I said, unless something just goes really off the rails. But yeah, I mean, Texas A&M, they could probably beat them. Mississippi State, you would assume that they would beat them. But LSU, Miami, Texas, I mean, you're talking about 3 straight top 10 teams. Come on, bro. After losing to South Florida, I don't see it.
Where are we at on Florida? Because I think coming into the offseason, after this loss, coming into the offseason before this loss, before South Florida, I think people had Florida going 10-2, 9-3 in the regular season. I mean, what are we at now, boys? I mean, it feels like it's lucky to be 7-5.
Yeah, never.
I'll tell you right now, I never in a million years would have had them as a 10-win ball team with this schedule, even in preseason. Not even
I
close.
was thinking 6-6 at best.
And if it was 6-6 coming in, where are you at now after this week? Does it change? You still at 6-6?
Yeah, we'll just go down the list with you, right? So we're at 1-1. We're at 1-2 after LSU. We're 1-3 after Miami. We're at 1-4 after Texas. You're at Texas A&M. I'm probably going 1-5. Let's say you're
2-4.
So let's go. You're 2-5 because you beat Mississippi State. You're 2-6 because you lose to us. You're 3-6.
Agree.
Odds are at Ole Miss after you ruined their season last year. He's got something for you. So 3-7. Say you pull upset Tennessee. I don't know what they're going to have that late in the season. So 3. Where are we at now? 3-7, 4-7.
Yeah.
So 4-7, 4-8, right there. Florida State. I don't think they're beating them. So I mean, you're talking about 4-8.
Disaster
5.
season.
Yeah, I mean, it's a disaster schedule. I mean, that's a horrid schedule. And don't sit here and think that any team in the country could just run through that schedule unscathed. I mean, if you lined whoever is going to win the national championship game this year, if you gave them that exact schedule, I'm not sure that they could get out any better than 10-2 at best. Just based on the home and aways, the way that schedule works out.
I'm with you.
I agree 100%.
All right. We've given Florida their L's. We've talked about the L's that Georgia took this week in terms of individual performances. We've given out the W's. We're going to give out some W's and some L's over here in the picks. Boys, it was a rough weekend. And I think that's just where college football is at right now. I think we can expect the unexpected more now than ever. Hit the props. It was a great week for the props. Y'all destroyed the Georgia props. 2 sacks, that hit. Forces at least 1 turnover. Ellis Robinson, your boy Dan, gets that 1 turnover. Over under, Georgia finishes with 510.5 total yards. Both said the under. That hit. 3-0 on the prop bets this week. Shouts out to you. Dan, we'll start with you on your bets. Dan had Iowa State to cover the 3.5 point line, or to win and cover the 3.5 point line. SMU to win. They did. He had SMU money line for this. Oregon to cover. That was like a 28.5 point spread. Oh, man, Mike Gundy has to be kicking himself for opening his
SMU
mouth.
Lost to Baylor.
Yeah, I was about to say, man in the bottom in double overtime.
Oh,
double overtime loss there, brother.
I'll have to update the reflections here. Makes the schedule, or makes it a little bit worse for you, Dan. 1-4 this week. Dan, I guess just thoughts on how the week unfolded as I change Kobe's record as well.
Yeah, I mean, Kentucky screwed me with the kicking a field goal from 40-something yards left with no time left on the clock. And like Lane Kiffin said, sorry to all you bettors, we ruined your parlay. I mean, I lost that game by half a point. Shitheads. SMU was looking good until they weren't. Iowa State, they won, right? But they didn't cover. So I missed that game by half a point. So 2 of my losses are by a 1 point combined. It's bullcrap.
It is.
That's why Vegas makes bigger buildings, not smaller buildings.
Let me tell you something. Mike Gundy, I'd say it may be the last year of the mullet. What Dan Lanning and the fellas did to Oklahoma State as a fellow Power 5 affiliate, I mean, I don't know if I've ever seen that in my life. I mean, it was a massacre. From the first kick till the end, I mean, it was a slugfest just scoring. I will never pick Oklahoma State to cover anything ever again in my life. Everything else was a good game, like you said. Iowa State, I mean, the Cyhawk Bowl was exactly that, just a defensive, slugfest, 16-13 with like a 50-something yard field goal to end it. Michigan kind of surprised me. They didn't look the best. I thought they could have played a little bit better. Ole Miss, obviously, that's just a bad beat. SMU, double overtime, bad beat. It is what it is. We'll get them next week. That's the nice thing about money lines, baby. They come out every game all over again.
Yeah. Rough week for the boys. They will bounce back. We will have full picks on Wednesday, but I'm going to go ahead and let them hit 2 picks tonight since it is the Sunday show. Plus, I wanted to add a little bit of excitement to the end of the show. I got a banger for you right out the gate. Bobby Dodd Stadium, Saturday night in the Flats. Clemson goes to Georgia Tech. After avoiding disaster versus Troy, Clemson is a 3.5-point favorite on the road. Who y'all got? Oh, just silence.
It's so tough. Do we have any word out of Atlanta? Is Haynes King going to be cleared to play? I know he was hurt this past week.
Yeah, can we make this pick on Wednesday?
Like that is. I was about to say. I feel like that's an important.
You want a Wednesday pick? All right.
I mean, if the starting quarterback for Georgia Tech's out on the game, it's going to influence my pick just a tad.
Yeah, just a lot.
Just a lot. All right.
I need to know how I'm going to lose this game properly.
Yeah.
All right. We'll go to the next one. All right. Hard Rock Stadium, Miami Gardens, Florida. South Florida, Miami. Miami's a 16.5-point favorite. Where are we at, boys?
You won't catch me. I'm too prideful of a man. Dan, shout out to you. But you really just think football, and I think with the old heart sometimes. But I'm gonna pick USF to cover that. I would probably pick USF just outright, but at least to cover 17 points. I like the way that sounds to me personally.
Yeah, I mean USF is a good program. They've been doing a great job. I don't even know who the head coach is there, but whoever's doing down there,
Golish.
Doing a good job. I think Miami has a lot to prove this year to a lot of different people. I'll take Miami to cover the points, which is it's a lot of freaking points. A lot of freaking points. Probably going to lose that game, but if Miami is who Miami says they are, then they got to cover. They got to.
All right. Next up, actually, we'll skip that one. We'll save that because I think
let's just do our picks on Wednesday.
No. I'm doing one more because I'm one more. And yes, I will revisit these lines. If you want to change your pick, you can change your pick.
All right, thank you.
Vanderbilt goes to Williams-Brice Stadium in Columbia, South Carolina. South Carolina's a 5.5-point favorite. Lenore Sellers is healthy. Diego Pavi is healthy. Where are we at, boys? Early thoughts on the Gamecocks and Commodores.
I'll take South Carolina.
I actually will as well. I think the quarterback cannot sneak up on anybody with Vanderbilt anymore. I mean, I think they're going to be very, very mentally prepared for him coming into town.
There we go. All right. So early picks. Now, these are granted subject to change. As I just said, on Wednesday, we will revisit these lines and any breaking news that comes with it. These are still subject to change, but just a few early picks. Dan likes Miami to cover the point, the spread of 16.5 points. They are favored in that game versus South Florida. He also likes South Carolina to cover 5.5-point spread on Vanderbilt. Kobe likes South Florida to cover the 16.5-point spread on the road at Miami, and he likes South Carolina to win that game and cover that 5.5-point spread. We'll be back Wednesday at 7:30. That's Dan Kiley. That's Kobe Pierce. I have to cough, so I'm going to go ahead and shut up and end the show.
Go Dogs.